All right, let's go, baby. Turn off this. Boom.
Episode, I don't know, Batillion podcast.
Episode, I don't know of what podcast, where, in what country.
Oh, wow. Colombia 2021.
Colombia 2021.
Cartagena.
It
Yes.
is
2021.
Cartagena 2021.
Yes.
April 21st,
Yes.
2021. Shall we take these shots and
Here we
start it
go.
off?
Kick it off.
Let's do it.
It's not
Kick it
saying
off,
on
right?
ceremony here, boys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers. Pick you up for the
Yeah,
queen. It's her birthday too, actually.
Deja vu here.
Oh, these are big shots.
Mm.
They had ice in it. Ugh. Anyway,
That
so,
was large.
That's good.
I like it large.
Yeah, we like to kick this off, boys.
All right,
Wow.
so
Doesn't it feel like we just did this?
yes.
Just a blink of an eye ago.
Except the interesting thing about when we did this for the first time, I think it was our 8th or 9th day into our trip
Oh.
for Jonathan and
Yeah,
I.
yeah.
Oh, in Mexico, yeah.
Yeah, so
There's so many themes. Oh
we
my
did a
God.
podcast as a team together at the start of 8 days into our trip in Mexico. And what was interesting about that is we left on the trip and we were like, we presumed at some point you'd come, but we didn't think it would be that early and like that quick. And it was like, I think
We get a message.
it was a week in, and we were
Yeah.
at the resort. I FaceTimed you. I remember I used my data because this resort in Cancun did not have Wi-Fi. Should we make sure the volume's up here? Yeah.
Yeah, if you just never touch it, then it'll always be good.
It's a little further away. But anyway, so FaceTime this guy, and then he's like, I'm coming. And then we
He's
were
like, I quit my job, boys.
So we were in Playa del Carmen in Mexico. We started off just like this, had some drinks. Mosin had the vape. We got a joint for when we're ready.
Yeah.
We're
We're not quite there yet.
We're not quite there yet. And then
You're not ready for that.
Take our time.
And that was like day 8 or 9 into Jonathan and I's total trip. And now this is now like 160, something like that days,
Yep.
give or take, something like that. And we spent a month together as a trio in Mexico.
Amazing.
Mosin went back, and then Jonathan and I had our own adventures, and then you had your whole adventure.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've talked a bit about what we've been up to because we went to Mexico and Costa Rica, now Colombia.
Yeah.
And then, so when we saw you last, we were in Mexico,
Yes.
and you were doing deep house bangers. So you're making music videos over music, and you're getting into the stock market, and then you got into wholesale real estate, and then you flew home from Cancun
Yep.
back in December before Christmas. And then what happened since then?
There's a massive bit too where you were like that 30 days before you left to go back to Canada literally changed your life.
Yeah, I mean, like in Mexico?
Yeah.
Why don't we work on it
experience.
chronologically? Like, what
Yeah.
did that experience do to you? Like,
Yes.
springboarding
What'd
you
take
to
away
come
from
back.
that?
Yeah, so let's talk about that 1 month that I spent with you guys because that legitimately changed my life.
Oh,
And when I got there with you guys, it started out as sort of like, I'm in vacation mode. I'm on vacation, baby. And then for
Mason, baby.
Mason, baby.
Yo, that was where we officially coined, because up until that point, up in that trip, we called you Drunk Mosin.
Yeah.
And then we just shortened it for conciseness,
Yeah.
and we just went to Mason.
Mason. Yeah.
Mason, which
Alter
is
ego.
the funniest story. I think we talked about it before, but we were at Electric Forest Music Festival in Michigan, and everyone was like fucked up and shit. And then we started talking to this dude, and you said your name was Mosin. He's like, Mason. And then
That's all it took.
and that's for
all it
some
took.
reason it just hit us so hard.
Mason and that one photo you took of me where I'm just like,
Oh yeah, the one with
The
the
corner of the eye, or
yeah,
which one?
the one
where
with
we're
the
just like
zoomed
zoomed
in.
in on my face.
The one that was
Never
when
laughed harder
he
in my
literally
entire life.
peed, and he literally was like
There
his
was
core was like
thousands
I
of
saw
people
your
watching
core
us.
was like fucking.
Yeah, well, you like jumped on top of me and forced a picture in my face. I couldn't help it, dude. I was literally pissing my pants, and he was like, "Look at it."
Classic.
Thousands of people around us all laughed, like, "What is going on right
I
now?"
really know how to throw kerosene on the fire.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, like that trip, the Mexico 1 month that I spent with you guys changed my life. Like I said, it started off as sort of a, hey, I'm here and I'm on vacation mode, to literally just becoming like the person I wanted to be.
He's a mastermind.
Dude, talk about it was a
Totally
mastermind.
a
The three, like, so all three of us are really big into different speakers and influencers. And then in terms of realizing the moment and the power you're in, it's one of the biggest slogans we've heard in personal development is you become the aggregate of the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
100%.
And we basically spent a month together, not working, but like, yes, partying and yes, drinking and having fun, but also like, how do we want to live this fucking game of life?
Yep.
And we stumbled upon Every Day is Saturday.
Yep.
Designing a life. Yeah.
Designing a life.
Yeah, man, we were all doing our own thing. I love that we had our own time in the mornings and like early afternoons to just be with ourselves and do the things that we like doing individually, and then in the late afternoons and the evenings coming together to do something cool, like go to the beach, party, eat amazing.
We totally were not.
Yeah.
We totally were not like a codependent Three Musketeers, where it's like I wake up like, what are the guys doing? I gotta like wait to figure out what they're doing before I do anything.
It was
because I got a gym membership on my and
Yep.
Mark did too, and went there, and then you guys were doing your own workouts. You were running.
Jonathan had his stretches. I had my running. You had your poetry and reading.
We had Nescafe.
We had lots of Nescafe. Yeah.
And that vanilla creamer. That
Vanilla
creamer. Yeah, that vanilla creamer.
Dude, there was one day in Playa where I go to Mosin and like he's sitting there doing his work, and I like make a coffee. I'm like, this is the only coffee I'm having. I'm cutting down, and I've been pouring. I've had an IV drip of cafe to my bloodstream.
It's
for
great.
the last 4 months, 6 months.
No negative consequences at all. Yeah, none.
I haven't slept.
Not a single day.
Zero.
Well, that must have been an interesting transition because we stumbled, like you said, upon Every Day Saturday.
Yep.
And then you go back to Canada and you
Every day was not Saturday.
You joined problems or profits and like into the real estate industry, and they were grinding pretty hard.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it must have been a total shake up of your pace that you were getting used to.
Yeah.
This lifestyle you were excited about, and then all of a sudden it was like, let's grind every day.
Well, you know what? It's sort of almost the same. It's actually like you just get so into the thing that you want to do. And when I was with you guys, I was so into the things that I wanted to do.
True.
And it led to so many other good things. Like it started with just getting into running. Running led to getting into deep house bangers.
Nice.
Deep house bangers led to getting into the stock market. I remember on the
Nice.
last couple of days, the last couple of days that I spent with you guys, and I think I talked about it on the last podcast. It's like when you do the things you want to do, like good things happen. And all the money that I spent in Mexico, which was not even a lot, it was like $1,500.
Wow,
that's actually
so
ridiculous.
inexpensive. When you realize that you can live anywhere and it's less expensive than living in Toronto.
I think it's just, and then what we're getting at is you can actually step outside of the stream of the way in which most people live.
Yeah.
And it can be so much easier and more within your nature, and thereby effortless, and thereby more profitable in all the different areas of life.
Yeah, I think you really need to ask yourself the question, like, does the reality I want actually exist? And am I living in the reality that I actually want to live in? And like, if you like think about the limitations within your reality, like, are they actually real? Are these limitations actually real? Do I actually need to just grind it out and work every day all the time to make money or be happy or whatever? Or is there a possibility that perhaps the things I want are not so out of reach, the money I want to make, I don't have to grind it out, and there is someone, just one person out there living the reality I want? Because once you start to ask yourself that question, it's like, yes. And then that universe starts to open up to you. It's like, yes, that reality actually does exist. And now you can pursue it. And as you pursue the reality of what you actually want, you get into more and more and more realities of what you want. Then you get into the pattern of like, holy shit, what have I thought that was a limitation that I'm now overcoming, that I thought was a limitation in another area of my life, not just, for example, like the financial area of my life, but perhaps some other fitness area of my life, a relationship area of my life. Like, you start to break down
the money game. Dude.
Yeah, the busting loose of the money game starts to help you bust loose everything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just a continuation. So all I'm trying to say is literally just do the things that you want to do, and don't do the things that you don't want to do, and be as honest as possible with yourself. And if you're not honest with yourself, circumstances will still, like, the truth comes out. Yeah. The truth will come out in some shape, way, or form if you are not ready to accept it for yourself. And I can talk about my real estate journey there, for example. real estate, started
Yeah,
wholesale.
before you jump into the real estate, to kind of like, we had the three of us in Mexico, and that dialogue that you just said around doing what you want, that riff that you just went, we basically had for 30 days or like a month of living together, and virtually every single day it come back to like, yo, you realize if we just do what we want, like literally do what we want, the other things will fall into place, as opposed to doing the other things that you think won't fall into place around what you want to do.
Yeah, one of the big reasons why is because there's other people that want to do that stuff.
Yes.
Other people want to do those things you don't want to do.
And not thinking of it as like, you know, like for something that you don't want to do that's necessary, that's something that someone else is passionate about.
Yeah, it's not squeezing them.
Yeah.
If they love it and they're excited about it,
Yeah.
and they're actually getting value out of you offering them to take over the things that you don't want to do.
Absolutely. You make room for the things that you want to do, and you make room for other people to do the things that you don't want to do that they do, and it just all it all works in harmony. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You mentioned $1,500 in Mexico for 30 days. Like, that is huge. I was thinking last week, Ian and I were in Medellin, Colombia, right before you came, and we were talking about how people hold themselves hostage with their lifestyles.
Oh my God.
They hold themselves hostage with their own lifestyles. Because
even if you make a reasonable good income in like a developed city, and then you overpay on rent, and I say overpay, but when I say overpay, I mean pay what the average person pays, because you're paying what other people pay, and thereby you think that's what you should be paying, which ends up being a way bigger percentage of your income than is necessary. I think it's like about 50% of Torontonians under the age of 30 are spending 50+% of their income on rent.
Absolutely insane.
It's like, and I think this kind of touches on something that we've kind of been working on, is there's some sort of guilt that is associated with doing well, because throughout history, you've actually had to like physically struggle to get to a point to like have quote unquote affluence or do the things that you want.
Yeah.
And it really is tapping into the working smarter, not harder. And that realizing that really refining the lens and the philosophy to work smarter instead of harder is actually working harder in a way, because you're going for the jugular of the thing as opposed to going for some surface level. Like instead, if you want to kill something in terms of make it the life you want, which is a weird way to analogize it or whatever, it's like go for the jugular instead of trying to clip off the fingernails.
Yeah. Do you guys know the Garcias, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu family that started like?
Is it Garcias?
What is it?
Anyway, there's a I know who you're talking about. De Hoya. Anyway,
very famous family with Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I don't do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but I heard Tim Ferriss talk on his podcast about one of the things he was like really well known for was sleeping right before one of his before his like major Olympic competitions, before like world championships. And they were trying to find him before he started. They're like, where the fuck is this guy? And he was sleeping in the rafters. And so they had to wake him up before the fight and then bring him out. And he was just like totally relaxed because he just woke up. And then he went in and he won. And so in terms of going for the jugular, it's like, what are the things that you would do where you could be totally relaxed and do those things and be successful? Like, you don't have to like strife and be all.
What are you striving for?
It's like find those things, because like for him it was Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but like what's your relaxed state delivering the best possible outcomes?
Yeah, I think people,
like your nature.
You know, you will live by the beliefs that you hold about reality, right? And whatever beliefs you hold about reality, there's no one or set of beliefs that are true. It's actually any set of beliefs that you hold about reality will become true. So reality is bendable into whatever you think is true. And so now it just becomes like, well, like if that is the case, then reality, you as you go through life should really just be challenging your beliefs constantly. Is this actually true? Is this possible? What if I was wrong about this thing? Like, you need to be exercising those types of thoughts, because as you start to exercise those types of thoughts, what you get into is you get into a playfulness and an experimentation of life, and you grow at an incredible rate when you do that. And you make so many amazing mistakes along the way that just help you grow better and better and better, and it just teaches you more and more and more. And like, yeah, like after Mexico, after this fucking drill in the hole.
Yeah, we gotta
Alto
construction.
Yeah.
I'll
Yo,
go
listen,
I'll go
I will
and clip
listen.
this.
I will tell you.
I'll go and clip this out. We'll go and clip it out. You guys know who Johnny Lowe is, right?
Yep.
He recorded a podcast for Circle Up's podcast.
You just restart that.
Yeah. You know who Johnny Lowe is, right?
Yeah.
Johnny, we're not making fun of you.
Uno mas.
Don't worry, I really appreciate you.
Dude, you click the podcast you click the podcast so it's only during this, and you post like a 3-minute clip of all of the construction.
Blooper reel.
Johnny created a podcast for the Circle Up podcast.
Yep.
A man that took a stand for him when he was at a point in his life where he felt unmotivated. He didn't feel like he was connected to his purpose, and so he wanted some support. So this man got on a call with him. His name is Yoshi, and they talked about Johnny's purpose. And one of the things that came out of that conversation was them talking about how we have like this expectation of how life should go and this like predetermined path based off of our conditioning.
Yep.
And it doesn't need to go that way.
Yeah, and I
Absolutely
think with that, it's like, because what
Totally
you're getting
agree.
at is
Be open-minded.
like the Joe Dispenza is what if you only do what you know, then you can only recreate what you've experienced, which is fine if you've gotten to a point. But if you don't like what if you want something more than what you've experienced, then you need to set yourself up to experience something more than you have experienced and not repeat.
And what does it take to do that, right? It takes courage, because you have to try and venture into the void, into the unknown.
Faith.
It takes faith. It takes energy. And you need to be able to have energy and courage and some faith to be able to try these new things that you haven't done, and to be willing to fail. And also to be able to look at failure as like obviously not as like failure, but like as a part of the process, and to actually enjoy it and not be like don't get like bogged down by like failure. You know what I mean? Like it's actually part of the process, and it's like, oh, I fucked up.
I found 1,000 ways
I
it
did
didn't
this
work.
completely wrong.
Thomas Edison.
This did exactly right. The whole Thomas Edison thing. What did it?
The Thomas Edison was, let's say, I don't know exactly, but let's say it was 354 attempts at making the light bulb, and it didn't work. And they said, "What failure?" And he said, "No, it's great. We found 354 ways to not make a light bulb."
That makes sense.
And then so it's kind of like it's like the Schrodinger's cat. If there's the cat in the box and you don't know if it's alive or if it's dead, and it's actually having like open the box, go find out, instead of like living this way of I don't know. And then for example, so we lived for a month in Mexico. Mosin got really into creating music videos with beautiful women, but EDM music over the background. And he was like, maybe this is the thing. And instead of sitting aside and be like, is this what I want to do with my life? He just started doing it. And
0 to 1.
And
0 to 1.
0 to 1, because everything is the same thing in a different way. So he does that, and he's excited about it. And then when it doesn't serve him anymore, he switches it.
Yep.
You go to wholesale real estate.
Went to stock market first.
Stock market first.
Yeah, I started actively trading stocks for the first time in my life. And like what was amazing to me was just like, holy shit, I made a few stock trades that all of the money that I spent in Mexico, I made in like 2 or 3 days in the stock market. And I was like, oh my God, like I actually legitimately don't need to go back to work if I just learned this. And then that stock market thing got me into real estate. And as I just started to approach things that I wanted to do, I was already learning about real estate and becoming on my way to becoming a real estate agent. I had like done half the exams and I was about to start studying for more. But then when I found out about the wholesaling real estate opportunity, I'm like, this is actually exactly what I wanted to do, minus the exams and the certification and all that stuff. So this is the shortcut to what I wanted to do.
Less hoops.
And it was just amazing. Like I got into that. I was super grateful for that. And once I left Mexico, that's what I did for the next few months. And I got to meet some amazing people on an amazing team and make some money along the way.
So you were living with people in a house.
Yeah, so cool. So we all lived together in London, Ontario, working together. There were about
a mastermind.
4 or 5 of us. There were guys in the other house. So there was like a team of about, I don't know, 10 or 15 people really. and just some super experienced guys and gals that are like super smart, and was able to do that and learn so much about real estate. Again, like just shattering my beliefs about what I think work is and how to make money, and just like expanding my reality of what's possible. And that is just an amazing thing, because then that led to cryptocurrency. That,
So let's talk about crypto. I am of the persuasion that in life there's almost all of the time that something sounds too good to be true and it's not, and there's a catch. But for every rule that exists like that, there's the exception that proves the rule. And it seems like cryptocurrency, there's a lot of ways you could probably do it and like try and be risky, but there's ways where it's like at the end of the day, if you just invest a couple $1,000s in some of the Ethereum, Bitcoin, and a couple of the other ones, and you don't even like, you're like, and you literally put that money in, which is I think what we're to some extent going to do either tonight or the next couple of days. Mosen's getting us into it. And then, yes, there's ways to like optimize it and like how can you squeeze the most out of it. But if you want, it sounds like you can just put some money in and just forget about it for 5 to 10 years, and you can almost guarantee that you're going to make ridiculous
in the long term. Yes, I absolutely believe in the future of crypto, and crypto is going to change like banking for sure. It is absolutely the future. Like once you understand it, like you just see that it makes so much sense. It surpasses the limitations that banking and central banks and centralization has set on us. So I absolutely believe in it.
I got a question for you about real estate, but I'm just gonna
Say, what did you say? You have a question about real estate?
parking the question about real estate before the crypto.
So
Just so I remember, and I can listen to what you're saying.
On the point of too good to be true, that is a belief that you hold.
Alto, por favor. Alto, después, por favor. Necesitamos 30 minutos. Amigo, necesitamos. With this episode, we're going to have to actually listen to it and clip out the parts that are. That's fine. It's all good.
Dude, no,
Or
bro,
we
this
could
is
just
not
leave it in there.
okay.
We just leave it in there.
So cryptocurrency.
Anyway,
No. If it happened once, then yeah. So cryptocurrency.
One point I wanted to make, like the whole like belief system of like this is too good to be true. That is actually you giving yourself an excuse not to try something. So watch out for your excuses. Like, oh, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is something new. I don't believe it. Can't be possible. But you know what I mean? That's your limitation right there. Ask yourself, could I possibly be fucking wrong?
I was listening to Jim Rohn last night, and it finally clicked. I'm like, I've been kind of thinking about this conversation with you and Jonathan and a bunch of friends and everyone. And said, everyone was talking about everything was talking about crypto, but I listened to Jim Rohn speech from 1981 last night, and he said it's all risky. It's all risky.
Exactly.
You think investing is risky? Wait till they hand you the bill for not. Wait till they hand you the bill for not investing. It's all risky. And then I think to kind of summarize it from a more meta level, like philosophical point, and throw it back to you into the dirt and the trenches of crypto, seeks adventure, not security.
Absolutely. Like like okay, so there's so much I can get into.
Which way do I go?
Yeah, you should not live like let me be safe and only do the things I know, because then you just can't grow it.
Then you're repeating the past.
Then you're repeating the past. You're living in your past, and it's like, well, fine, if your past is great and that's all you ever wanted and you never don't want anything more, then continue to do the things that you want to do. But like I know that I'm going to die one day. And like we all are.
Oh God.
And it's just like that sets some level of urgency in my life, not in a anxiety causing way, but just in a like I need to be curious and think back to like a few years ago or in university or in high school. Like think about all the things that you wanted to do that you just didn't have the courage or the energy to do at the time. But it's like now put that good type of pressure on yourself. Not like this anxiety pressure, but like a good level of urgency on yourself. Is like, actually just try new things. Like that is my philosophy of life. Like you need to try new things. You need to go to new places. You need to challenge your way of being, because probably the way that you are right now just isn't what you want forever. Like there's probably something you want that more that's out there, and like it is beautiful, absolutely beautiful to pursue those things and to be in this constant state of healthy pursuit of something greater.
Someone talks about seasons of your life. It may work for a season.
Yes, and this is interesting because I was just listening to Eckhart Tolle the other day, The Power of Now. That guy, but he had another book that I was listening to, and A New Earth, and he talked about how and different levels of magnifications of the way in which you're experiencing the present moment, which all there is. So a lot of what we're talking about, and it's very important, is you sacrifice certain things in the present to kind of set yourself up for a future. But what was interesting, it's kind of a different vein. He said the unchecked striving to become more, like we love personal development, personal development. But he said at the same time, the unchecked, like the constant, like always like on to the next horizon, setting that up, that's also a very toxic. He said like that's the most toxic, one of the most toxic beliefs of our culture.
I think in a way, yeah. I think
from one that, because we're gonna get back to the like, let's fucking figure out tomorrow, and that's important too.
Yep.
But
no, I think if it all depends on like how you're feeling about that constant need for more, right? Is it this like compulsory feeling of like now's never enough? Because that's probably wrong.
Yeah.
I don't always know right or wrong, but like that probably doesn't feel too good. This constant non-appreciation of where you are now. You know what I mean? With this pursuit of what's greater, or rather, this you can have both. You can have whatever you want. Actually, you can have this appreciation for where you are now, and the healthy appreciation and pursuit of what you want more of. You know what I mean? Because if you have it all, then you start to lose motivation as to anything that you want, and your life kind of starts to stagnate. So there's got to be a balance.
Yeah, it reminds me of a Rumi quote where he said, "Life is a balance of holding on and letting go."
Yes.
It's a balance of preparing a better future, like in a certain way, but then once that's set aside as a necessary tool or function or planning that you can be present and engaged with, which is Jonathan's reminded me a lot of, and like you can get excited while you're planning something that's going to set you up, but then being able to compartmentalize, which is able to mentally, okay, we've done this planning and we've set it up for the future. Now we're just going to chill and hang out now. And now you can just be.
I like that idea a lot because it reminds me of Jim Rohn and gardening and farming. And it's like you do have to plant the seed at some point. Otherwise, no harvest will arrive at any point.
Yeah.
So there are moments where even though we're planning, it's like, oh, we're spending all this time planning. It's like, well, we're planting seeds that we're going to harvest one day.
And then the nature and the faith and where it all fits in with the gardening analogy is only like you want to make sure you're planting where the reaping of what you've sown, the harvest of what you're planting is going to be what you want.
Yeah.
But
the juice worth the squeeze.
The juice worth the squeeze. And here's the catch though. There is a lot of harvest that you like. Find the balance between the harvest you want and the seeds that you want to sow. And then that's where like the magic is, where you find the enjoyment of the seeds that you want to plant. So you're like, fuck, I love planting these seeds. That matches up accordingly within your nature with the harvest that you want to reap.
Absolutely. Yeah, what do you guys think?
Yo, what do you guys think?
What do you guys think?
What do you guys think?
Yo, pause the podcast right now
What do you guys think?
and write a 14-page dissertation on what we've said thus far. Anyway,
here's a gift for you.
I think we need to give people like more specific examples about just everything.
We gotta give them more examples
like
of everything.
We've spoken a lot about like philosophy.
Yeah,
and
I got some specifics for you.
Yeah.
You want to get the dirt for a second?
Yeah.
One of the things I was really inspired by you is that 0 to 1 concept where you're willing to try
you want to
something.
break down the 0 to 1 first?
Yeah, 0 to 1 is a book written by a guy named Peter Thiel.
Yep.
Say that right?
Yep.
Peter Thiel. And the concept is basically, instead of building on something that already exists and making it better, so like 1 to 2 or 1 to 7, it would be creating a new category. So it'd be 0, where there wasn't a category before, and you're creating something, so it's 1. And the way that can apply to your life is something you've never tried before. Something that someone else has tried before and you do it, it's not something you've tried, so it is for you 0 to 1. And so Mosin, one of the things that inspires me about you is that you're willing to try new things.
Absolutely.
Test them out, see if you like them. Try it on. It's like a new shirt. Like maybe it doesn't look
No,
good. Maybe it does look
Maybe
good.
it doesn't look good. Strip poker on the podcast.
There you
Switch it
go.
up.
Let's get it started.
And what I want to do is
Pair of aces.
help people understand what that actually means. So, like, what does that result in? When you go from 0 to 1, you become a different person. And then once you do that again and again, you are constantly morphing.
Yeah.
And it's like you are in the pursuit of the things that you love doing. And what it gets you to, and I think I said this in the last podcast, is that you are on the verge, on the cusp of finding another part of yourself that you so love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you are literally finding love all around you. And what a joy it is to be able to fill your life with more joy, more love, more of the things that you actually want. And coming from a place of like, oh my God, I actually did not believe that that was possible. I didn't even know that was out there. And now it is. And now it's here. And now I have it. And now, oh my God, what else is out there?
Yeah.
I must keep going.
And what we were talking about last night with that is when you like basically what we're talking about is following your bliss. So Mosin joined us, did music videos to the stock market, to wholesale real estate, to cryptocurrency, to back with us now in Colombia, all these different things. And I think there's an element of faith of following your bliss. If you look at it within like stairs or like a journey, it's like you take your step and everything's constant flux, everything's constant change. And you know the step you're currently on, a phase, an interval, is not going to be the step, the phase, the interval that you're always going to be on. But you can go full engaged on the step you're on and know that that's not always going to be there. And that's going to prepare you literally for the next step. It's kind of like, the first time, like you want to be able to be mobile in this world and travel and go different places. Well, at some point, you probably took your first flight. And you go to the airport and you got to go in this line and you're so confused. You don't know what's happening. I was in grade 8. I went to Florida and my mom just dropped me off and I had to go figure it out. And it's that first time doing something new, it's kind of difficult and scary and it's unnerving and it's confronting and challenging to everything you think you are.
Absolutely.
But then you do it and then you're like, oh, that's easy. And then now you see what, and then the 0 to 1 is you have to do that first thing that's really scary and unnerving, and it could be anything. And then once you do that and you've been successful at identifying something that you haven't done, trying it, getting through the awkward stage and then it doing well, and then now you open up the realm of there's a lot of things I haven't done that I'd like to do, and the fact that I don't know how to do it isn't actually a barrier to doing it because you know you can figure it out. And that's going 0 to 1. Because maybe if you just wanted to go in crypto and maybe I want to do that, maybe it would be too much at the time, but you did everything else that stuck to you as the thing to do at that time.
Exactly.
And that led you to the thing.
Exactly. And it evolved, right?
Totally intolerable to anybody listening. Totally intolerable.
Yeah. So, what was I gonna say?
Well, I got an idea.
Yeah.
That point totally reminds me of what I listened to with Johnny Lowe on the Circle Up podcast, and he was talking about how like whatever your purpose is now, they go all in.
So you were talking to Johnny Lowe.
Yeah, I was talking to Johnny Lowe. No, I was listening to the podcast that Johnny Lowe did on Circle Up podcast. It was episode 52, and he was talking about whatever your purpose is now, go all in on that.
Yep. Because
it's the way of being, of going all in on whatever you care about right now, that will serve you with your entire life. Because like we talked about, seasons change, the things you care about change.
Yep.
But what will remain the same is that you go all in.
Yeah.
And the quote that I'm reminded of, wherever you are, be there fully, be all there. Right? So it doesn't matter what it is. So it's about like what we talked about this whole show, being open-minded that the life you thought you needed to live doesn't have to be that way. It could be anything, but wherever you are.
What we're talking about, like, because we're talking about like nitty gritty details in certain pursuits, but if you look at it like a more meta level, I don't even know what I was going to say. Something about it to do with meta level. But it's, I think there's an element of like actually having faith that just my top priority is I'm going to like do the things that call to me, and then trust that that's going to lead down different corridors that you don't even know exist right now.
Exactly.
And then trusting that those
Get
excited about, and then having the uncertainty and trusting that there's something there, even if you literally don't see it, you don't know what it is, it's gonna happen.
And what we're talking about is the transition of the unknown and your perception of the unknown as something that you fear, that's dangerous, that can hurt you,
and it's not.
And
it can.
when you exactly, and it's not. It's like, but as you continue to pursue venturing into the unknown and making the mistakes and experiencing the wins, it changes how you approach the unknown, to fearfulness to playfulness. Like, what's over there?
True.
What's this?
Like a discovery, like an uncovering.
Exactly. There are probably risks. I will probably make mistakes. I would probably possibly experience some wins.
And Jim Rohn said, "Do you want to know how risky life is? You don't make it out alive." Because you just said, so it's like no matter what you do, it's going to end anyway. So don't have what you do based on if it's going to end or not, because it will.
Yes. It's all of that pursuit. I want to talk about what it has actually led me to, and what I think people need to hear. Here's my main message. You don't actually need to struggle. You don't actually need to grind it out all the time. You don't actually need to do that to be successful. You don't actually need to work for a company or a job. You actually don't need to do these things. And if you think you do, maybe you need to do it temporarily. Maybe you're in a little squeeze for money. Maybe little things. But you don't actually need to do that. You actually do just whatever you believe in. If you think you need to do that, then yeah, you need to do that. But ask yourself again, like, is there a possibility?
We're getting back to first principles.
Yeah, is there a possibility that maybe I'm wrong about this? That maybe I can challenge this in a couple different ways? And you know what? I want to talk about where that's led me to, right? Because I think this is a really important message. It's like, guys, I actually do not need to fucking work anymore. I actually do not need to go to a job. I actually do not need to work 9 to 5. Cryptocurrency is just the first step of, like, the money I've made there is actually just the first step of a series of things that will, like, just help me fuel my life in the direction that I want it to. Like, I don't have to work anymore. I don't have to do things that I don't want anymore. I don't have to be surrounded by people I don't want anymore. I don't need to have a boss anymore. I can go on vacation when I want. In cryptocurrency, it might go away one day, but knowing that things like that are out there, and I just need to find them. And just by trying different things, eventually I will strike gold. And just to know that in my mind now changes my life forever.
And by knowing that, the knowing that is the strike.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
like, it's not like one day I'll get there. It's like, dude, we are there. And like, to be fair, it's like, yes, we're traveling and not working right now. And it doesn't happen overnight. Like, we all worked at the same company for years and worked for around, 3 to 5 years as a team each in different things to refine our philosophy to get to a point where something that Jonathan and I have talked about, and that basically the big thing that we found masterminding as a trio in Mexico is like if you just like pop your head out of the stream of the way things work, almost every human in history was working almost all of their time, their entire lives to some extent, or they weren't, but they didn't have any means to be able to kind of do what we want. And we're not like rich in the sense that we can, stay in like 5-star hotels every night or something like that, but we can live relatively frugally, and we've kind of created this space to be able to get out, which we busted loose the money game. Busted loose. Where it's like money is, we are not looking exclusively through the world of a filter of like finances. And then when you do that, you realize what's important and what like the power you have. And then you realize you can get with the flow of the way things work, and to Mosen's point, not struggle all the time if you don't want to.
Absolutely, man. Whatever truth you think about the world is true. So you need to make sure that you choose your truths very carefully. And nobody can choose the right truths all at once perfectly. It is a process of getting better and better at choosing the right truths for you long term. And yeah, man, like I'll give you some examples, right? Like if you think you need to make millions of dollars before you can be successful, then that is your truth, and you will have the ups and downs of that truth. I'll give you my example. I started off my life and my career in accounting. I thought the only way that I could be successful was to be a CPA, and then from that CPA, the only way was to become a manager at my company, and then to become a senior manager, and then to become a partner, and then to become a CFO. That was the only way in my head.
Wow.
And then, that was it. And
You're walking a skinny wire.
once I started to pursue that, I was so unhappy that I'm like, oh my God, I hit like a rock bottom point of like deep anxiety, depression, and whatever, to the point where I was like, there is no way that I would be willing to pursue this route any longer, because this just cannot be it. And that frustration, that level of anger, that actually gave me energy and courage, what I talked about before, in order to venture into the unknown, to try different things, to try insurance sales, then to try tech sales, then to not do tech sales, then to be on vacation for months on end, then to try something else, then to try another software company.
If Mason didn't try tech sales, we never would have met. Yeah. That reminds me of Henry Ford, where he says, whether you think you can, whether you think you can't.
You're right. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. So what you need to do in life is actually just be very careful. Not be very careful, but like
Stand guard.
Just
your mind.
Just be aware of what you think is true.
And be careful of like the thing, like as you're trying to fall asleep and you're going through the different problems, you don't have to like overjudge or police the thoughts that are going through your head, but be aware of them and be aware of the truths that you're whispering to your soul as you drift off and you say, oh, everything in the same way. Okay, in the same way you said, I'm going to be an accountant, the way I'm going to climb up the ladder and become a CFO, and that's the line I'm going to go. That's an example of just like of the thinking patterns that we as humans, where if it's not CFO, it's I'm going to find this mate, and then once I get this mate, it's going to be cool. Or once I get the house, or I go to this, and the only like the place to where you want is the route is you're already there. So exactly. It's like realizing that it's always been like it is right now.
That makes sense, because at some point you said, this is what I want where you are right now, but that was in the past and you're pushing off to now. And then now you're saying that's what I want then, but you don't realize that before you said this is what you wanted, so you're actually there already.
I think people are so living either in the past, or people are so living into the future, but they're not living now.
Yeah.
And it's like now is not good enough for a lot of people. It's so crazy. It's like now is not good enough. The past was great. Maybe the future is going to be great, but now is just not good enough. But hold on. But once I get there, then I'll be happy, right? It's like, hold on. You're telling me you're living your life in a manner where you're putting off your happiness, your well-being. You think you're going to find it in the future. What do you think is going to happen when the future comes? Then there's going to be another future.
Because here's the thing, and like
then you get it. That's a messed up mentality.
You can only enjoy like one thing at once. Where it really clicked in me where after you had left and we were in Playa del Carmen, Jonathan and I, after the New Year, and we stayed at this like kind of like small hotel that wasn't very nice. No, it was a different one. And they had like this huge back garden with people working and hammocks and all this kind of stuff. And it was very cheap. Like we just stayed there, and I was sitting in that chair. And think about things that a lot of people would think and convince themselves, like becoming CFO, that would make them happy. If I could have this giant lot, this giant space, then I'd be happy. And I was like, I'm sitting there. The fact that it's not mine or not, the only difference is a mental interpretation of what's happening. And it's like, we're sitting in this place. Well, I'd be happier if I owned it. Why?
Yeah.
Says who?
I want to talk about like other people's expectations of you.
Yeah.
And and the reality that you want to wrap yourself in. Do you want to wrap yourself in the reality of how someone else perceives you? Do you want your identity to be formed around how someone else perceives you? How you think other people perceive you? Because I think that's easy to get into. You know, there's that phrase, I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what you think.
No, I am. No, it's not I am what I think I am. It's not I am. It's not what I think you think I am. It's what I. Let me.
I think you think I am.
It's what I think you think I am.
Exactly, and I think that's unfortunate, because now you're focusing on the external world to validate you in some way, to show you or whatever, right? And if you're that's a train of thought and a belief system. Now your belief system is based on something external, and it's like, what are you doing there? You're actually giving your power away. You're giving your power away. This person, this belief system, that government, that thing over there. And it's like, no, please, like, practice reclaiming your power. Think about the bad things that have happened to you in your life. For example, I'll talk about me specifically, like being let go from wholesaling and being let go from the wholesaling real estate team. Like, at first, that was to me like, oh my God, how can they do this? I was performing, like, why me? Like, how could they do that? You know what I mean? Or I can say, this happened for me.
Yeah.
If not for this, I actually could not do the things that I wanted to do. If not for that, I actually could not be here with you right now, which is actually what I literally, word for word.
Like what you're talking about is, there's a quote that Jonathan and I have talked a lot about since he left, which is, life sometimes saves you from what you want. And the noise in the background allowed me the repose to continue on here. And getting out, I think there's a lot in terms of reclaiming your power. There's a lot of power in getting out of your interpretation of the world as this opposition, and recognize a more serving for everyone place of the harmony. So we talked about the pressures from ourselves of what we think we should be doing, of society and companies and all those kind of things. And it's maybe there's things that need to be worked on, but also recognizing that we're not in opposition. Like, for example, we could go on a riff to be like, Amazon, they made so much money during COVID, and if you want to order something, you're going to get it right away. And there's all these things that are that you can work with, as opposed to trying to oppose in terms of the flow of things.
Absolutely, exactly. You can try to resist. Oh no, why did this happen? Oh no, why is it like this? Or you can start to see what are the benefits. And it's like, what do you want to focus on in your life? It's like, do you want to focus on the L's and how they're L's, or do you want to maybe think, is there a possibility that this L that I'm perceiving is actually a huge W? Well, let me for a second think. Let me try to reverse it for a second, and let me think, how could this L possibly be a win? You know what I mean? And then you start going into that type of pattern. And exactly, you change your reality, and you can literally just do that with your power of thought. And again, what does it require? It requires curiosity, courage, and energy. Like, have those things in your life. Now it comes to, well, how do you live your life? Do you actually do the things that will help you cultivate energy, curiosity? What was the last thing I said? I don't know what I said. Energy, curiosity, and courage. Yeah. Are you actually? Yes. And so, what do your daily habits look like? And so now it becomes like this is for me in my life. Like, I have to think about, what actually do I need to do to actually cultivate energy, curiosity, and courage? Well, I need to meditate. I need to self-reflect. I need to consistently try new things. I need to have these good questions.
Wait. In terms of like reframing it, you don't need to get to. Like, exactly. Those are the things those are the anchoring back. Yeah. That is the enjoyment, is to like live everything as an active meditation, where we talked about right before we started this. We were like, there's nothing I'd rather be doing. And if you start going through the list of things you might want to do later, for sure. But right now, if you want to just get to a point where whatever you're doing is what you want to be doing. That's right. Then that goes to the Epictetus quote, Stoic philosopher, where he just, the goal of a philosopher is to get to a point where you want everything that happens and you literally don't wish for anything that doesn't happen. And you can actually get to that point, and that allows you to work within your nature and working with the flow of things, because we've talked about the majority of what we talked about so far on this podcast is from a certain level of magnification of getting on the way of things working so that it can push you in a way that you want. But even what you want is just an interpretation of reality. And a quote that Jonathan might shoot me in the head for bringing it up for the 40 millionth time that hasn't brought it into, because it's a dialogue that we've been into since you've left, but the Rumi quote of somewhere there between right and wrong, there is a garden and I will meet you there. Mm-hmm. And part of that is getting and it is important from a certain lens and a certain planning stage to be like, that's an L, let me optimize it to an W and reinforce different things that I want. And one of the things that I want, by the way, I literally thought that you want is this split. And one of the things that, Jonathan, after you left, we were in Playa Del Carmen on a hostel, rooftop, and we were talking to this guy that worked there, and he was just like a very zen, chill dude. He's a lazy loader. But I'll take that over almost everyone's.
He's gonna be up. He's on the roof right now. He's on the roof right now.
He said, if you ever get to a point where you can enjoy a joint with your friends, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. I think what you talked about there, from what you need to do to what you get to do, what is that? That is actually a practice of reclaiming your power. And that is something that I think people really need to get into, is what is this situation that you're in, and how do you reclaim your power in that situation? Is this a problem, or is this a profit? You know what I mean? And that's why I wear this tag, even though I'm not part of the company anymore. I think what the mentality that they taught me is so beautiful, right? You can look at things literally just as a problem or as an opportunity, and practice reclaiming that power constantly. And literally you get more powerful. Do you want to become more powerful? Yes.
And then that's from and this is where it's getting back to the adjacent truths and the different levels of magnification, compartmentalization. So while you're in the stage of work or trying to get ahead and do things, you can. But then at any point you can tap out of is this a W or an L? Or you realize that reality is not a W or an L. It's literally, there isn't words for it. And you can tap into the magnification of kind of moving things in a direction. But really the jugular, in terms of really going for it, is the surrender to your nature, and then the faith that that's going to take you where you need to go. And that takes so much of the bullshit out of the way, in my opinion.
A big part of that.
Coca-Cola?
Yep, I think so.
In the fridge.
Sit out the car?
Fridge. Yep.
So it's the first one. Well, you guys
drank that whole thing.
Anyway. No, there's still some.
I got a bit for you. But one of the things that Mohsen talked about was how he got let go from this real estate mastermind. And it reminded me of a conversation that I had with a man that's part of Circle Up. And he talked about how since he joined Circle Up, one of the things he was looking for was to be more active, more busy, and be more committed in his life, start making more progress towards the things he wanted. And what that led to over time was him overcommitting. Right? He had so many things on his plate. He's like, holy shit, I got all these calls.
On his plate, biting off more than he can chew.
Biting off more than he can chew. And the big thing that came from that is I told him, I said, that's not a bad thing necessarily, because it'll teach you what you're actually committed to. And so what I like about this whole conversation is you mentioned that conversation where the guy was like, basically, I got to let you go. Yep. And if you really wanted it, you would have said, no, I'm going to keep doing it. And you would have confronted that, but you didn't actually want it.
Exactly.
So there's a universal omen saying, hey, Mohsen, you can move on to what you really want, or you could stay here, and you decided to move on.
And there's an element of stepping off of the gas when it feels within your nature to step off the gas, as opposed to thinking that you must always have the foot on the gas. Because if you just surrender to your nature and you're going to do that, if you're stepping off the gas in something, it probably means you don't want to be doing it.
I was stepping off the gas on real estate wholesaling, and I was stepping on the gas on cryptocurrency, because it allowed me to do more of the things that I wanted to do and live my life in the way that I wanted to. And what could have happened is after being let go from the team, I could have said, well, I could just do this on my own. But I chose not to do it on my own. Why? Because I'd have to drive around to people's places. I'd have to drive around to people's places. I'd have to work with sellers and buyers and earn money that would be a fraction of the money that I earned in cryptocurrency. Sure. And it was just a no-brainer. In terms of lifestyle, in terms of income, don't get me wrong, there's a massive, massive amount of income to be made with real estate wholesaling, and there's a possibility I might do it in the future. But like right now, what suits my lifestyle is making money from anywhere, doing what I want, and that's not to knock the team at all. I love that team. I love the guys and gals there. They're all wonderful. I'm very impressed.
I think what you mean. I think what you mean to say in terms of a sentence, like make money and work where I want, do what I want. It's like do what you want, and the money will work into that.
It's designing a life, man.
Yeah, I think eventually it gets to that. Eventually it gets to that. And I think naturally it might not be the very first thing that people try. Like, yeah, I did what I wanted to make money. It's like, no, you'll probably go through a lot of pitfalls. But if you actually go through them and are willing to go through them, eventually you'll end up on the other side where you're actually doing it.
Okay, so Mohsen, let me ask you this. If there's anything in the world right now, do you wish you were with a bunch of 11-year-olds on a field throwing the ball around? I think the answer is no.
Obviously not.
But at a time, that's exactly what you want to be doing. So it's like, yes, at all points, if it was just one moment for eternity, would I want to be sitting on a couch drinking? Maybe. But just in general, if there's any, like, even you can't just do literally in terms of like if you had the full thing open to you, the whole buffet, you wouldn't necessarily be able to do everything like right now. But you're excited about putting yourself. You can get excited about the step towards the oasis. You know what I mean? You're excited about you're putting yourself in a position to do what you want. Thereby, you are imbuing meaning into what you might not, in its own sake, necessarily want to be fully doing in this moment. But you can you can imbue meaning into that is doing what you want.
Yep.
I got a question for you.
Yep.
In terms of like bringing it back to like a practical element, one of the things that I was really excited to see you do early on when we were in Playa Del Carmen was reach out to that team and say, hey, I want to work with you guys. Hey, I want to learn from you guys.
Yep.
And that is how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. You don't fucking, all right, I'm going to learn wholesaling and fucking start. It's like find people that know what they're doing and go work with them. I saw that. I was like, wow, Mohsen really has.
And by the way, that's the mastermind because Jonathan and I did our own thing, and obviously the three of us had influenced each other in so many ways prior. But Mohsen came because we kind of extended that, like, here's an option. He's like, of course, let's go do it. And then through that whole thing, he was like, let me go do what I want. So we were just doing what we want. And then that kind of led to a kindling of you doing what you want. And then that doesn't stop there. Now you come back and we're having this conversation and we're like, oh my God, we should not only continue what we do, continue to do what we're already doing that's working and inspires others, but maybe he has something to add there too. And then it gets us excited, and then us doing well is going to do well for you, which is something that Jonathan and I
absolutely
talk a lot about.
When you figure that one out, it might unlock every single relationship you've ever had.
This is the thing where we're in a lockdown small town by a mountain in Colombia, like last week, Guatape. And we were just like smoking weed and drinking and stuff because the hill we wanted to go was locked down. Anyway, it just came to this ongoing dialogue. We even have like a podcast that we've done before on this, but like really clicking because Jonathan and I spend so much time together. It's like literally what is in the best interest, like as amazing as Jonathan could do, whatever he does, like that doesn't in context, look at how bad I've done. That elevates what me. And then by me doing well and whatever I want to do, that's going to push Jonathan, which is going to push Mohsen, which is going to push our friends, which is going to you and your friends and everyone.
We've had this conversation since minimum 2018, but I remember there's a picture of you and I at the club in Toronto, and we're just like flexing after dancing all night, and the caption is essentially
was Ben Bomer, February 2020 last year.
Essentially along the lines of like how happy you are for your friends to succeed is a really good indicator of how happy you are yourself personally.
And like, and now I'm thinking off that quote now, it's like that feeling, I think even a better than happiness, like how happy you are to see Mohsen do well in cryptocurrency is an indicator of your understanding and like full-bodied resonance of abundance as opposed to scarcity.
Yes.
Right? The thing
What is best for you guys?
is literally like, so it's like instead of like always, and it's, you know, we're gonna figure out the Airbnb price and split it up 3 ways. So it's not like we're not gonna do that, but just like in terms of all like, I don't have to see, oh my God, you did well in crypto. It's like, okay, well now that's the kick in the butt for me to do well in crypto, which is then gonna give me the freedom to do something. So it's gonna remind you of like, fuck, I want to do freedom. And then now Mosin's being more free, which is getting me excited, which is getting Jonathan.
Imagine you were looking for advice and you called one of your friends and they were just giving you shitty advice. Would you want the people you hang out with to be giving you shitty advice, or would you want them to be
game changers
reading personal development, growing, getting better, making a difference in the world? Those are the people that I want to have a conversation with and say, hey man, like I'm struggling.
In terms of doing like a win review, in terms of things like philosophical ideas that you understand intellectually or in a moment experience, but maybe it doesn't always carry over, to go through an experience like this with a friend of yours where like you've like, where you want to feel good that they're doing well, and then to actually prove it to yourself. Like, let's run the tape, baby. Let's go back and show that, like, Jonathan and I, we can, if we really think about it,
what are you going to say?
an infinite amount of things of like a seesaw of good for you, good for me. And then with all of it, don't worry, I'm fucking there, dude. I got it. But it's just like, we can run the tape and I can see how, Mosin's done things that have like, oh, maybe I need to do something a little bit more. And it's just, it starts to circulate. And it's group economics. So instead of everyone being in the scarcity of there's this one pie and everyone's got to try and get their biggest pie at the expense of others. Because if someone else gets a big slice, that means there's less room for you. That's a paradigm that you can shatter and say that instead of trying to each person get the biggest piece of the pie, let's make the pie bigger for everyone. And then if you make the pie bigger for everyone, the piece that even the person who gets the smallest piece will be bigger than what they would have had if it was the smaller pie and they got the biggest piece. And the great example of that is that Mosin and Jonathan and I like doing pretty well, but we're also not billionaires. And you know what? Up until a couple hundred years ago, only the equivalent of that age's billionaire would be able to have air flowing on them in a hot climate.
Yeah, they'd have a huge.
You would have to have servants and literally slaves and be worth like all of it to have someone doing this. And yet we are at whatever running the leg of the race, and we have this here. And you know what? Those kings back then, those kings back then, you're hearing these words, and I'm confident in saying when I say you're hearing these words, because if you weren't hearing them, then I wouldn't be saying it, vice versa. You get it? So it's like,
maybe not, that's okay.
But it's magic. It's magic, baby. And it's like, there's things that we can do. Just the fact that you're just, what I'm saying is the fact that you're hearing these words and we're saying this now is like, you would have to be a king and you'd send a messenger and they'd get there in like a week.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is putting things into perspective.
Yes.
Of how fucking good it is.
And it's
this moment in time.
And this is what I'm saying. And that's why I'm saying in proof, it's like we have examples around us of how that pie was way smaller a couple hundred years ago that we're talking about with the king. So the king had the biggest slice, but his slice is shittier than we have it now. Smaller than we have it now. Even a person who's less well endowed.
I want to talk, and I want to build on that theme, right? Like, that means you, as part of the pie, are part of the pie, meaning that there are other pieces of the pie while there's other people of the pie. And I want to go back to what you were talking about, Jonathan, when you were talking about me joining the real estate team. A really, really, really good way to grow the piece of the pie, and a really, really, really good way to learn something new is to actually ask the question, who, not how. And if you just ask yourself, who is doing the things that I want to do? Who is the person that I want to be like? Then you start studying that person. Now you're not dealing in these theoreticals of what you should think you should do, how you should do it.
Because there's a concrete example of it.
There is a concrete example of it. There is living proof of it, which helps you build the belief system and the reality that that is actually possible. Then what actually takes it to the next level is you being in direct contact with that person. Then what takes it to the fucking extreme is you living with that person or working directly with that person, being surrounded in that type of ecosystem 100%. your acceleration, like you can accelerate your growing of the pie and
It makes so much sense.
Dude, busting loose
It
in the
all
money
fucking
game.
makes
Dude,
sense.
before you listen to busting loose in the money game, you hadn't busted loose in the money game. And because we were so fucking fired up about it, and it's like who, not how, who we're doing, this is the mastermind.
Us, yeah.
And then it's like realizing that someone else doing better than you in a certain area that you're with isn't bad. That's good because it brings you up. But this is where the mastermind is. There's things that Mohsen is better at than Jonathan and I. And there's things that I'm better at than Mohsen and Jonathan. And there's things that Jonathan is better at than Ian and Mohsen. And it's like, dude, it's not it's a team, bro.
Do you understand that? Like,
Do you get it?
Do you get it? Like, do people understand that? That people have their unique strengths, and it is one of the honestly, like, an absolute honor to be like surrounded by you guys and to be here with you guys, to be in Mexico with you guys. Like, I want the viewers to know, the listeners to know, like you guys fucking changed me. Like, you guys helped me actually literally see. Yeah, take these drugs. Yeah. You guys actually helped me literally see and then experience and then become a completely different person and way of life.
And then faith is that, like, we're talking about all these things and we literally don't know what direction, but it's just trusting that it's going to happen. And it actually doesn't matter that you're already there. There's not a place to get to that if you have faith, you'll get to. The faith is that you're already there. And that this is the step of the journey, and that however much money we're making or contribution or happiness or things we want to do, it's just going to get as good as it is going to get.
In all honesty, I could not have done what I've done, and I could not have achieved the things that I'm proud of. Not that like I'm like this ridiculously successful guy.
Yeah,
I am for myself, but not for maybe some external people.
But
anyway, I could not have actually done those things without you guys. And so I want to thank you guys for helping me grow and just become the man that I am and experience what I have, because I'm quite happy with where my life is. It's the best that it ever has been.
Dude, and it's making you realize that, like, the team is making your lives entangled, where it's like what you just said about us, you wouldn't be able to do it without us, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without Jonathan, and Jonathan wouldn't have been able to do it without me, and vice versa. And it's entangling the lives where you literally can't disentangle the contributions of the people that you've decided to enmesh with, and that it's just going to get better and better and better. And there's the quote by Mark Nguyen after we did Nuit Blanche and I did mushrooms and lost my mind, but he said, he posted a photo. There was a photo of like 8 dudes, and we're all like going around smoking weed and going to the art shows all night. And it was just like something along the lines of life. You don't have to figure it out alone.
Man, I want to talk about
cliche statements really connect.
I want to talk about some of the things that I think between each of us we do so well, and I want to help people understand the friendships that they have around them and the people that they have around them. But I want to use you guys as examples, and myself as well.
Who else are you going to use?
Exactly. Well, I just want to help people understand that the people around them are actually really, really, really valuable. And so just like how you need to make better decisions in life as you go through life, like it's the same thing with people, and you want to be careful about the people that you choose, right? Like, Ian, your mind is like a mind that I honestly, like, how fucking witty you are is absolutely insane. To be like that witty, you have to be a fucking genius. And so I like love you for that. I think your poetry is amazing. For anybody who hasn't seen Ian's poetry, just follow him on Instagram. He's posting poetry and it's fucking absolutely beautiful. And I think like Jonathan, for the like the man that you are, the leader of the type of man that you are, like all of these things that you guys are slingshots back towards me, and it helps me grow in those respective areas of my life, or in some other way or shape or form, whatever. But it is making me better. I absolutely believe it, and because I believe it, it is true, like any other belief system.
And then what you're saying is like once you get that, because it is just like ricocheting between the people in your group that you're helping with each other, and then realizing that is getting the blockage of you actually receiving the benefit. Because if I'm thinking of like how Mosin's doing better than me and we're in opposition in my head, I'm like, fuck this guy, then I'm not in a position to receive the consciousness.
You're not on that frequency.
I'm literally not on the receiver to receive. Because I'm not allowed.
That's not for me.
Yes.
That's what you're saying there.
And then I think we're getting so fucking excited because we're literally illuminating the blockers in our dialogues of this concept in real time.
It's happening right
and
now.
it's literally happening in real time. Like this is real math. Like we're getting excited.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, in ways I'm like, fuck, Mosin and Jonathan have been doing well. How does that reflect on me? And then I'm like, oh wait, let's fucking ascend.
Yes. and like, fuck, I had an eloquent way of saying this. I'm gonna try and find
What an eloquent way of saying
this clip too many times.
It's like, I want to give you an example. It's like you find this thing that's amazing that your friend has done, and I've had friends that have far exceeded me in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's like in their physical fitness, or in the money they've made, or in this or that you can find an endless amount of things of people that are doing better than you in some respect of life.
Yeah.
Right? You can find an endless amount. Or you can look at the people around you and be like, you can be curious, or you can be jealous, like you said, and that basically is a rejection. Versus you can be like accepting of that. I'm like, oh my God, that is actually true. And I should probably learn how to do that. I should probably learn how to become fitter by surrounding myself with a fit person who knows great exercises. I should surround myself with a leader who knows how to unite men and help them out of dark times and become the men that they want to be. You know.
And this is how it's internal. And this is how it's internal and external. So you just said learn how to be a leader within great men. Yep. And you could interpret that from a learning perspective, and you could say, great, now I can learn how to be a leader of great men. But also realizing the external is that now you are surrounded by great men who the leader of, and they look up as your friend. Like what? Like, are you? Why? Like, it's both. Yeah, and a more vain, funny example is Jonathan's kind of like he's working on he's had some injuries where he just can't do what he fully wants to do, and to an extent I can't, but I can't either, but I can do a little bit more, and I'm working out. And Jonathan looked at me, and you could tell he was like going through this dialogue of like, fuck, they can do it. But then he's like, hey man, the more fit you get, the more attractive girls are around. Yeah. No, like and like that's just like a tiny little like sand in the beach of sand.
What a beautiful example and beautiful way of like a perception of a little thing that you just turn around, and you reclaim that fucking power. It's like, oh my God, this reality is happening for me.
By the way, no, dude,
it's happening for me. It's happening for me.
It just came back to real, like, no matter. This is the non-duality and the like wholeness of it. No matter how you shape it up, no matter how you chop it up, slice it up any way you want, what's the best for you is correlated with what's in the best interest of me.
And what other belief system do you have? Do you need to have, or sort of do you want to adopt in order for that to be true? It's like the belief system that we are all connected. It's like we are not these disassociative things that are experiencing reality on their own. It's like there is a very, very strong connection and a common starting point or birth or whatever. Oneness.
What Ian would say is that it's not even the separation; it's the illusion that we're separated.
It's getting on the fact that our symbolic exclusiveness is supposed to represent the eternalness of it. So a roundabout, a circuitous way of saying it is this famous psychologist, Eric Fromm, wrote a book called The Art of Loving. And in it, he talked about the symbolic nature of like the man to woman or like whatever romantic partners and intimate partners, that a dialogue or a narrative that's often espoused is, hey baby, it's me and you against the world. And that is really reinforces the illusion of the separateness. Yeah. But what you're actually supposed to have is that like the intimate partner that you're with is not a fuck the world, it's us, is we're gonna love the world symbolically through each other. Like that would be like the making love so to speak. And then you realize that that's a cool romantic way of explaining it, but that actually, every way you shape it up, it's the same thing, sliced up differently. It applies to literally every facet of your life. So in the same way, it's not our tribe, fuck the rest of the world. There's like a dialogue. It's like and it's going to be us and then fuck the other men. It doesn't matter. It's like, no, we are going to love men and the world and earth symbolically through building each other up. And not always trying to get the most squeeze out of a situation, but how can you actually create and foster a relationship?
How can you give the most give?
So the funny example of that, Jonathan and I, we stayed at a place in Medellin, Colombia, and we had a landlord of an accommodation who we asked for weed, and we were going to buy like 2 or 3 grams, and he came with like 20 something grams, and he sold it to us for about $11 Canadian, and he easily could have sold it for double, triple, quadruple, and he knew it.
Where's the vape guns?
I don't know.
Where's the fucking
Right. Anyway, he didn't
You don't
want
fucking
to.
put that down there.
Sorry, dude.
Anyway,
All right, I put it on my own.
The man,
I don't even remember what I was.
the
gonna
story.
anyway,
Say. I remember what I was
fucking
gonna say.
love your friends.
Yeah.
Can
Have
I-
you ever done
yeah.
Landmark?
No, but
Oh,
I heard good
do it.
things from both of you, a few
Yeah.
other people.
In
Yeah,
one of
bunch
those
of
things where it's like do it and you love it, like
Yeah.
do it, you love it.
I'm sure I
Yeah.
would.
It's
Well, when this COVID shit ends, I'll do it.
they have a lot of different offerings,
I bet.
but they have 3 main programs. The first
Cha-ching.
one is called
They have a great landmark.
Good
To preface it,
system.
landmark is a great example of adjacent truths of how you can think there's so much things you disagree with something, but then not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and be like, yo, that even though the baby's kind of a demon, that bathwater is kind of sweet. You know what I'm saying? So it's like really realizing. It's a great example of that where we have kind of some qualms, you might say, with landmark ideology and the way it's done. But like, if you can not examine that and you can look at the value, it's insane, as Jonathan will tell you.
Yeah, like just to build on that really briefly before I say the point I was saying is like one of the confronting challenges about their experience is whatever rebuttal you have to not.
That's why you need to do what we
Joining
want
the
you to
next
say.
program
It's basically like,
is
yes.
the reason why you need to do it. So as an example, if I
Yes.
said I don't have money to invest in myself and do this program.
That's why you need to do this program and invest in it.
And so that's one of the confronting
No, the
experiences.
reason why I don't want to do it is like, I'm doing another program and I'm like, maybe in a year or something. Like, that's why you need to do it.
Yeah.
And it's literally
It can
like,
be confronting. And I remember actually the first time I ever did Landmark was because Ian and I were actually growing a network marketing business at the time. And one of the leaders in the business who I really looked up to, his name is Franco DeFranco, he said, I don't work with anybody who hasn't completed the Landmark Forum. Because it was part of his, it was how he communicated in the world was through these tools and these analogies and these concepts. And so if someone wasn't working from that foundation, it was very difficult to work with them. And so he's just raising his game basically and saying, if you haven't done this, I'm not going to work with you. So I was inspired to do it. But after I was done, at the end of it, I was literally in the room with my mom thinking about doing the advanced forum. And I was crying, bawling my eyes out because this guy was like, that's the reason you need to do it.
and you stop crying and you're like, no, it's not that. They're like, you're not crying. That's the reason you need to do it.
So anyway, I eventually did the advanced forum. And in the advanced forum, they brought up something that Ian and I have both learned, which is essentially there's you, and then there's a third entity in relationship, and then there's team, and then there's organization, and then there's society, and then there's mankind. And every time you go up on the chart, you're making your life better too.
Make it all the way up there to Satori, baby.
Making it all
Are
the way
you
up to
dumb?
All the way up.
So that was just relating to like what's best for you guys is best for me. And
Yeah.
then if I go outside of that, what's best for, let's say as an example, an organization like Fix. If Fix was doing better, we were doing better, yo.
And this is how you create, and this is how you fucking pull it together. So it's like we're talking about busting loose and being able to do whatever we want. So like after this podcast ends in the next whatever dozen minutes, we're gonna go find a sick restaurant in the city and we're gonna eat
Ball
like
out.
motherfucking
Ball
kings,
out.
baby.
Ball out.
Musafas in the fields.
Eating like kings, that's a good context.
So I think that the context is your philosophy is your lens at which you see the world, and realize there's no world without the lens and this way of experiencing it. So it's like you get to shape how you look at this. I can look at this. I could look at this and say it's hot. I wish it was air conditioning in this room, or I can be like, yo, anyway. You know what I'm saying.
I'm getting a feeling of what it's like to be Colombian. I know what it feels like to be Colombian now. And it's prepping us for going inside as well.
It is.
Because when you go outside, it is smoldering.
It's hot.
That being said, the last thing that I thought about based off what you said about going out tonight and getting a great meal was if it's the illusion of separation, that's actually the setup is it's an illusion that we're separate at all. Then I'm you and you're an I. And so obviously what's best for you is what's best for me.
And that's
it's best for me. That's like first principle.
And that was the point I read. This is what I was leading to. No matter how you slice it up. So you could think of in the most like selfless, beautiful terms about like one kumbaya and we're all one and like I'll sacrifice me for you. Or you could think of it in like, fuck yeah, baby, I'm just gonna fucking make the best of this world. I'm gonna fucking manipulate the way you want. Then your conclusion in terms of a decision tree is still make sure it's best for the people around you. So it's like, and then that's the non-duality. It's that there's a part of you that does want to do it for selfish terms, and there's a part of you that wants to do it for selfless terms. And that's the paradox. And so much of it is resisting the fact that both of that lives within you. And there's a part of you that's like, fuck, these guys that did well, and I'm gonna fucking do better, and that's gonna show how fucking sick I am. And there's the like, yo, fuck, like honestly, Ian doesn't exist. I'm just here to view my love. You know what I mean? And both those exist.
Absolutely.
And
And it's cool because you can look at it in a very spiritual context, like this very gooey context we talked about in the show before. But one of the ways you look at the world is through this more prickly lens. And we've been talking about money a lot on this show. And going back to building a network marketing business, one of the things that they said, if you could look at it this way, it would really help, is they would say, if I go out and make other people rich and I help them make money, then I don't even have to worry about myself because it'll just get taken care of. It's just go help other people. So in terms, like even from a financial perspective, and a very practical, like if you really love the business and you really love the enterprise and you really want to be in the dirt and fucking going for it, then one of the ways you can look at it is if I help you guys make more money, then
you're gonna be taken care of.
And that's this coming back to this oneness and this connection. And it's like the better I do in this thing is going to be the better that you do in your thing, and you're going to get better at the thing.
Dude, isn't that the peak of what the division of labor should be? The division of labor, so it's a pie that's all congruent, but you're experiencing it through a different slice. And the goal should be everyone gets to experience the slice that they want that makes the fucking perfect pie.
Exactly.
Like that's the fucking heat right there. That's the point.
Yeah. Our civilization as a whole has gotten better by working together. It's a good idea to continue that trend.
Yeah, we're gonna keep the trend going.
And then also though, in terms of like making that, it's like actually having the other side to look at it from really checking it out. Checking it out to make sure, because maybe you're abundant, but maybe there's other egos and stuff at play. So you can't, any type of like absolute authority where you're like, these people, we believe them and they know they're what's best for everyone, and just give it to them and let that happen. It's just absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like, yeah, you won't eat cookies if you don't have them in the house, but you have them right beside your bed and you smoke weed, you're probably going to eat them. So it's like creating a circumstance where everyone can, in a sustainable way, because what we're talking about is, leads to like universal basic income and all those kind of things. But it would be at a point where technology advances to a point where it isn't, we don't need a couple people that get to decide it for everyone and can overrule anything at any point.
I think that's the ideal scenario in terms of like people just do what they want and don't have to worry about limitations otherwise, like money or like health or something like that. That is absolutely the ideal scenario. Yeah. Like, how do we create that, right? Well, we do continue on the trend we're on. I think as a civilization, I feel pretty optimistic, right? Like
I do too.
I personally do.
Well, if you're not optimistic, then you clearly don't fake that.
Yeah, we're all part of that. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. Is we're trying to work together to help create and make our lives better, individually and as a collective. And that's the message that I want to leave people with. It's like do the things you want to do, because that in itself will help make the entire world a better place, and you have to do no more than that, and in fact you don't have to do anything at all. But if you do pursue the things that you want to do from personal experience, it will literally make the world a better place. It will start with you, and then it will start with your friends and your family, and then if you want it to go further than that, it will.
Well said. Well said. And I think one of the things people could do if they wanted to keep this conversation going is to share this podcast with someone they know, someone they love, someone they think this conversation would benefit. And then that way we can, like, we're essentially taking the consciousness and making it available. Right? Like, think about all the books Ian read to have to come up with all these fucking quotes on the spot. Like, by sharing the show, you're actually giving that gift to other people.
I would implore people to act out of love and compassion for yourself and everything and everyone around you, not in some weird hippie sort of way, but in a more so of like reclaiming your own power in a way, of like the abundance and the gratefulness that you have for life and the things and the people around you, for other people doing well, for your friends doing better than you in some area of life, because all of that slingshots back into the universe. I really do believe it. So, like, me wanting to teach you guys cryptocurrency, one day that will provide huge gains for me. Not that that's the reason I do it, but I just know it's going to be good. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't it be good? There's guys that are doing way better than me at cryptocurrency, guys that I personally know. And like, because of them, I am doing that well. And now I get to pass that on. And now you get to pass me on something, and you get to pass me on something. And it's like we become the best versions of ourselves. And it's just such a beautiful way to bring civilization forward and to enact and play out our purpose, really, and feel good about dying.
Sure. Like,
Thanks for doing this with us.
dude,
Thanks for having me.
Dude, literally straight Satoriing out here. I was just sitting here when we were talking about the trying, and it's like do it with love and stuff. And then the actual thing is you just don't have to try, man. Like, you have to think about your blood running. It's literally the same thing. Once you get to a certain frequency, and you can tap into just.
Once you legitimately do things you want to do, you don't actually need to try, grind it out.
No, but there isn't even what you want.
Sort of
It's just what is, and
you just do it.
you have alarms going off to prove it, right? Like,
Could this not be an order?
No, it's just like, of course it is. It's like, it's literally saying, stop. You've done a.
I think one of the last ways to talk about like practically applying this in your life is like when you wake up every day, like go meditate as soon as you wake up.
For reals. And that comes back to the habits that practice courage, curiosity, and energy. It's like, yes, meditation does give me that. Journaling does give me that. Doing the things I want to do does give me that. Hanging out with my friends does give me that. Going to the beach, it does give me that. Just to give some people some specifics about
Let's get to the beach, baby.
Let's get to the beach.
We're in a beach town. We should go to the beach.
Go to the beach.
We're in Cartagena.
Go to the beach.
Go to the beach.
Let's run around the beach.
A lot of meditation this time around.
Yeah, we should do some. We should do. Yeah,
Do
do you guys want to do like a? Do you guys want to do a group? Do you guys want to do a group meditation every day?
Yo, let's do it every day at, what do you think, 9 p.m., like right before we go to bed or something?
Yeah, maybe sometimes.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Yo, we're getting a soft commitment. No, I'm down to do it every day.
All right, sick.
I'm down to, if we don't do a shared meditation every day, I'm down to do it every day, and then maybe every few days we do a shared meditation. That's good.
Why not?
On God.
Good podcast, boys.
All right, my friends. Until the end.
Yo, Colombia 2021, baby.
Cartagena 2021, baby.
Yo, Abdul, we will see you, buddy, very soon.
Are you stupid or are you dumb? That's the question.
Gotta be over.
I'm pretty sure that was Shakespeare.